الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم واهدنا ووفقنا إلى الحق وإلى طريق المستقيم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. ربنا زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما. ربنا تقبل منا بسر سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. رب اغفر لي ولوالدي آمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Shukran, Imam Hussein. May we all benefit from the dua that you've made. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم. We've dealt with, for now, if I reflect on what we've done so far, then I have this feeling that to say that we have dealt with the 20 sifat and briefly covered the sifat that are impossible to apply to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I almost feel that we haven't done justice to it. It's clearly something that we all need to go back to. Now that we've gone through that, it's important to actually revisit that. And I would suggest that if people are a bit unsure or unclear or need more clarity on any of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then please go to the YouTube channel and look for that particular sifat, or go through all of it to refresh your understanding of that. What we are going to be starting with today, inshallah, is to talk about cause and effect. Now, cause and effect might sound a bit abstract. What has cause and effect got to do with our understanding of who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really is? Now, if I must just ask, and I'm going to ask now, so prepare yourself so that you can respond to what you think is a cause. Generally, if we talk about, we're not talking about deen now, we're talking generally now. What would you understand cause? What is a cause? Is there anyone who would like to offer an explanation or an understanding of what is a cause?
When you do something, something else will happen. If you don't brush your teeth, you'll get a rotten tooth. If you don't look where you're going, a car can bump you.
Yes. So, what is the cause in the first example of the rotten teeth?
You didn't brush you didn't brush your teeth, so effect was you got rotten teeth.
Okay, so the cause in that example that you are using is, the cause is that you didn't brush your teeth.
You were neglectful, yes.
Yeah. And the effect is that your teeth got rotten in the process.
Yeah, got a cavity.
Yeah. Now, yes, generally, I think we have an idea of what is cause and what is effect. Now, when we apply this understanding of cause and effect, and we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what we must understand is that when we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything. Am I correct in saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything? And what do we understand by everything? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't only create us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the knowledge that we have. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the very actions that we are able to do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. Allah created the ability for us to think. All of those things, every single event, everything that exists has been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I want people to participate in this because it's important that we understand the foundation on which we are going to build the rest of the session. We go out there and we do something bad, something bad. Did Allah create that? Did Allah create the fact that we are doing bad? The effect of us doing bad and the ability to do bad, does it come from us or does it come from Allah? That's a question that I'm posing now.
It comes from us to do bad.
Okay. Shabnam, what did you say?
It comes from us to do bad.
Yeah, okay. Let's look at what you are saying now. If you're saying that the ability to do bad, we're talking about the ability now to do bad, does it mean that you have control over creating bad things that Allah doesn't have control over?
Allah has created the bad things, but it's your choice to do the good or the bad.
But who creates the ability for you to be able to do it?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
You see,
God can lead you astray.
yes, we're not talking why you're doing the bad necessarily now. What we are talking about now is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created everything. In fact, if we use the example of Aisha, that Aisha used about you didn't brush your teeth, so your teeth got rotten. Is it the fact that you didn't brush your teeth, is that the cause that your teeth got rotten? Does the brushing of the teeth have ability to create an effect?
Yes.
Muhammad Farid?
No. We have no ability. Allah has the ability and Allah has created everything. So whatever, I was thinking of whatever action we do, even if we intend to make a bad choice. So for example, if we decide to rob a bank, Allah gives us that ability to rob the bank. And Allah gives us the ability to do everything and anything. It's only that fine choice that Allah has given us that leeway. But we have no ability to do anything. Good or bad comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, good or bad comes from Allah. That's a topic that we're going to be discussing separately. But now, in the way we're going to deal with it, I'm not going to ask any more questions. Very good answer, Muhammad Farid. There's more to say, but it will become a bit more clear if we go into the subject itself. Good and bad is a very difficult topic to discuss, but with our little bit of a foundation that we've laid now on understanding the Sifat correctly, we will hopefully be able to, inshallah, be able to understand these matters. Let's, for a start, go into what we understand to be cause and effect. So, if we say cause and effect, in terms of worldly examples, let me the definition in terms of the dictionary. If we use a dictionary definition of what is a cause, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I think we have an idea. I think Aisha's example of you didn't brush your teeth, that's why you got a rotten tooth, is a good example. The fact that you didn't brush your teeth. We're talking now under normal circumstances. Under normal circumstances.
Listen here.
There's somebody's mic who is on and it's interfering. So I'm not going to go further about the definition of a cause. We can use many other examples. I got the virus and therefore I am now suffering from COVID-19. The virus can be seen in this instance, in the worldly example, as the cause of why you are sick and why you have the virus now. Definition of effect. One can broadly say the effect is the result of the cause. When the cause happened, it resulted in something happening. Now, can you have an effect without a cause? Can one have an effect without a cause? Can you have a result? You're going to write exams. Can you get a result if you didn't even sit for the exam? Yeah, you can say you get 0 because you didn't sit for the exam. But
So that is the effect, actually.
it's an effect, yes. But if we look at the fact that you did not write, the effect was that you got 0. So
There was a cause.
So there was a cause.
Subhanallah.
But if you look at effect, it's the result of something else. Effect doesn't stand on its own. Effect is something that arises out of a trigger. Something triggered something, and that's the result or the consequence of that. So effect does not exist on its own. And we can use many examples. The room is dark because there's no electricity. Is it possible? Is it possible to have an effect without a cause? No. Do we agree with that? It's important that we actually have to, before we even get on to the next point. But is it possible to have a cause without effect? Can you have a cause without effect? Okay, explain. Can you give an example, maybe?
Yeah. No, but no. Okay, that I think the two must go hand in hand. Nothing can happen without. You know, they cannot be effect without a cause, and neither can be a cause without any effect.
Now let me,
Because
no, stop there.
okay.
One of the things we must realize is that effect can only arise if there is a cause that had that consequence or result. But it's possible for a cause to exist without there being any effect. Say we use the example of a room that's dark. The room is dark. There's because somebody has switched off the electricity, or there's no electricity. The power is cut, but the room is dark. It's possible that there could be electricity everywhere, but it's not switched on. So electricity can be seen as a cause to light up things and dispel the darkness, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the moment there is electricity, that everything now is lit up. Maybe that's not a great example. Let's use the knife. If you use the knife and you say the knife is dangerous, and the person used the knife to stab someone, that person is now bleeding or dead or whatever, or injured. That's the effect of the knife. The knife had the effect of causing death. The knife can exist without it being used for anything. To eat. You can use the knife to eat. The knife should be seen in that example as the cause. But it doesn't mean that wherever you have a cause, that you necessarily have an effect. It will become a bit more clear as we move on. Now, this whole debate around cause and effect has created many problems in the previous period, early on in Islam, where people debated these questions. And one of the things that they got stuck with was the question of the necessity for something to be present, for it to be, for that to happen, for it to result in something else. Like, for example, the thing that I have there, the chicken in the egg. Which is the cause and which is the effect? That debate has been going on for centuries, both in the religious and spiritual world, as well as in general. Now, one of the groups early on in the belief of some of the Muslims was that let me just go to this next slide. There's basically four strands of belief around the whole question of cause and effect. And the first one is referred to, the first group is referred to as the Jabariya. Now the Jabariya, the name that this group got, Jabr means compulsion, force. I'm not an Arabic scholar, but my understanding is Jabr comes from compulsion or force. How did this group believe? these people believed that every single thing in creation has been preordained. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed everything, and there's nothing we can do to change that. And that in reality, if Allah has decreed for certain things to happen, then there's nothing that we can do. No matter what we do, it won't affect the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, even amongst ourselves, we find people who actually believe that the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covers everything. So it doesn't matter what we do, whatever will be, will be. We've come across people believing like that. Now, the problem that they had is that they said at the same time that we don't really have control over our actions. Technically, we have a choice, but whatever must be, must be. Allah has preordained everything. Now, their main argument is that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't will for something to be, then it can never be. Now let me stop there and ask, is that true or is that not true?
It's not true.
So you saying things can happen even though Allah hasn't willed it for it to happen?
No. I'm saying whatever the understanding of preordained, it is there because the knowledge.
No, my question is,
Okay.
That the question is that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not will for something to be, it can never be. Is it true or is it false? Forget about what I said previously.
No, that's true. That's true.
So, how do we now understand the fact that what they are saying is in fact true, but where is the problem?
The problem is with the understanding of preordained, that they don't realize that irrespective of when the thing didn't happen yet, Allah already have the knowledge of it.
You're almost strengthening the argument now.
No. Then what I mean, if something is preordained, that doesn't mean that I can't do it. I don't have to do anything because it's already there. No, Allah Ta'ala is well aware that what I'm going to do. So even if people say, yeah, but how can dua change the condition if it is preordained? I said, yeah, hold on. But Allah Ta'ala knew that you're going to make that specific dua and He will answer that dua. So the knowledge of Allah is already in there.
Let's not talk about the dua. That's a part of what we will come to later.
Okay.
What I think is important to realize is that the statement that they make, that nothing in the entire creation can happen if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not will for it to happen. That statement is true.
Yes.
That statement is very true.
Yes.
Now, how to interpret the question of where does choice come in and what has Allah decided and decreed? They believed, let's just talk about them. We're talking about the Jabariyah. There's other people that we must actually come to. They further believe They further believe that all their deeds and good or bad, they don't take responsibility for it, good or bad. They say it's the decree of Allah. We can't go against the decree of Allah. If Allah has decreed for it to be, then it will be. And therefore, these people are considered to be out of the fold of Islam by many of the scholars, because they don't factor in the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created human beings with free will. But the point that free will and choice, we are not put here and then everything that happens has already been decided. Allah has given us free will, but the one aspect of what they believe in, we mustn't make the mistake to disregard that. And that is that every single thing in the entire creation can only exist or happen if it is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right? So now we come to the second group. Or before we get to the second group, is there anyone who wishes to make a point or a comment or get clarity on this before we move on to the second group? Okay, let's go on to this.
This is a heavy concept to understand, Salie.
Yeah, it's going to become a bit more clear as we hopefully move along. Because now we get this, inshallah, we're going to come to the second group. These people had a big problem how the Jabariya believed. They actually believe, no, but we do have free will. Allah created us and Allah has said so, that He's given us choice to decide. We are not, as Muslims, if Allah compelled us to do the good and not gave us choice, would we ever have been able to do anything that is contrary to what Allah wanted us to do? Never. We would have been compelled to only do good. But Allah created, yeah, we would have been like Malaa'ikah. They're under compulsion. They can only do good. It's impossible for Malaa'ikah to do bad because Allah has removed that possibility from them. They are not given choice. Yeah, and this is what makes us special. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us choice. So here comes the next group and they said, it's obvious. The first group called the Jabariya, they can't be right. This group is called the Qadariya. Now I'm going to be honest with you that the way these people believe, for a long time, I believed like this myself. For a long time. And I think it's important that we just listen to their reasoning of what they are saying. They believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us free will and choice. They say that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them choice, Allah has put them on the dunya, given them the choice, now they can do whatever they want to do with that choice, but they must go and account for whatever they have done, good or bad. Whereas the Jabariya before said, Allah can't blame me. I have only done what Allah has decreed for me. They said, no, that can't be true. You have to account. You must remember, these people are not so-called atheist who doesn't believe. These are people, it was people who were debating how to understand and implement Islam. So they break away groups from Islam as a deen. They said, no, once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the ability you have that will and that choice. Now you must account for it. Is that true? Is it correct what they are saying?
No.
Why? Why is it not correct?
It's been written in the Lawhul Mahfuz exactly what's ordained for us, and not everything is the choice of a human being.
You see, if
Allah has ordained our risk.
Yes, it's true. Allah
Various things for us in life He's ordained for us. So it has been written in the Lawhul Mahfuz. Our fate as such has been written.
Would that not make Allah, may Allah forgive me, would that concept of Allah having decreed our destiny and our choices for us make it very unfair? And may Allah forgive me for asking the question. We know that the right answer is to say Allah is.
Also have a choice to. Allah has given us the. I think the connection we're breaking.
No, it's fine.
Can Sheikh Manie hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, to a certain degree, things are written for us. So no matter sometimes how hard you work, but if that risk is written for you, you are just going to use that amount of risk. You're not going to use a cent less or a cent more.
Okay, you're touching on an aspect of the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What has been said. We're going to come to that later, but let me touch on it. The Lawhul Mahfuz is something that describes every single thing that is going to happen in creation. It must not be understood to represent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken all the decisions of what will happen and what is going to happen, and that it's written in stone and nobody can ever change it. Because if we believe it like that, then the first group is not wrong. But if we take the second group, the Qadariyah, who believes that now that Allah has given them power or life, created them, Allah has given them free will and choice, Allah puts them on the dunya, there's good, there's bad, do whatever you need to do, but remember, you're going to have to account for everything you do. If you do bad, you're going to be punished. If you do good, you're going to get reward.
So they're the complete opposite of the first group.
Exactly. I believed like this myself until I was an old man. But I'm now very old, but I was old. And I still believed like that. In fact, one of the things that changed things dramatically for me was when I attached myself to Sheikh Hazim Abu Ghazala. May Allah be pleased with him. And when we were explained about these issues, and I read his books and went further into this matter, And I understood where I actually went wrong as far as this group is concerned. But let me go on to the next point. Okay. So they believe that once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them the power and with it the choice, they believe that they are able to do with that power whatever they please, whether it's good or bad. But what they did not consider is that what does that actually mean? When they say Allah has given them power and Allah has given them choice, go forth into the world and do whatever you need to do. But just remember, you must account for your deeds. They believe that they could do, and Allah will allow them to do whatever they need to do without interfering. Once that power has been deposited into them, they can now do with the power whatever they need to do. And like I said, I believed like that for a long time. But where the distinction comes in, if you believe that you can do things and create effect, this is where cause and effect comes back. If you believe it is your actions that can create effect, you're actually saying that Allah can create effect, but Allah's given you the ability to also create effect. And the scholars refer to this as dualism. In other words, power and ability resides in more than one place. It resides with Allah. We accept that. But they believe Allah takes the power and deposits it in human beings, and human beings can now do with that power whatever they want to do, and Allah leaves them alone. It's a very, very dangerous thing for us to believe like that. Because power and ability to create effect comes only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It never ever, listen carefully to what I'm saying, power and ability never ever transfers from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to anything. It remains forever under the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ownership and the control of it. So it's not I'm the owner, I give you delegated ability or authority to perform whatever you want to do. They don't believe that Allah has preordained anything, which is the other problem in their belief system. And we know that one of the arkans, the pillars of Iman, is we must actually believe that Allah has preordained certain things. That's why it's so important for us to understand these concepts, because if we claim to have Iman and we don't properly understand the question of preordainment, then our Iman is lacking. We can never ever claim to have true Iman because we don't understand these things. And we must not fool ourselves ever to say we know if we are not absolutely 100% sure that you can stand in front of Allah and say, I believe like this with certainty. So the fact that they rejected the concept of preordainment and believe that human beings are in control of their own actions, some people have also labeled them as disbelievers. not unbelievers. They believe in Allah, but in a way that doesn't do justice to their belief. Now, we're not sitting here to go and judge people whether they are believers or not. We must never ever fall in that trap, even if it looks very obvious to us. So I'm not saying that they are or they are not. That I leave entirely up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I would suggest that we all follow the same route of not ever sitting in judgment. Let Allah be the judge of who is a believer and who is not a believer. Now, the other area that we should, and I'm not very eager to go into to this one now because it might take a bit of time. But I'll put it up. It's a group that we are a bit more familiar with. They are called the Mu'tazila. They were concerned that both the Jabariya and the Qadariya had shortcomings in their belief, and they want to remove those unbefitting and incorrect concepts that these previous groups associated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they had certain problems. One of the key problem with the Mu'tazila was that they believed that you could reason everything right up to the end that has to do with your belief system. That everything could be understood with their mind and logic. They're extremely logical. There are some people around now still. The previous two groups, you won't easily find many people believing like that. There are groups throughout the world, but they're very small. But the Mu'tazila you will find, and some people will claim to be of the Mu'tazila even here in South Africa. They are people who placed a very, very high value on the intellect, and they were influenced by the Greek philosophers at the time to a large degree, where they would debate and discuss things like the Greek philosophers did at the time. Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad Fasih. Welcome.
Wa alaikum salam, Salie. Wa alaikum salam to everyone else in the room.
The other problem they had also, the Mu'tazila, was they thought that similar to the Qadariya, that man can create effect through his own actions, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would never judge them by doing things that they had no say in. And they placed emphasis on justice and fairness, and I am not that familiar with everything that this particular group believes, because it can go into a lot of detail, and I don't want us to get stuck in this. The other problem that they had, they couldn't make the connection because of their logical and intellectual approach to reconcile or to balance what the concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having given them free will and choice, but at the same time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preordained. How do you take the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and balance it with free will and choice was something that they couldn't reconcile. So their views on preordainment is different to the way we believe. The other thing that the Mu'tazila, as I said, the excessive dependence on logic only and reasoning was one of the reasons why they got stuck where they were. And as we said, in that particular period in the history of Islam, the Greek philosophers were at their peak, and they tried to use a similar kind of method and style of presenting and projecting Islam, and then fell in the trap of doing things the way they did it, based only on logic and reasoning, and not understanding really that the brain has very, very severe limitations. As wonderful as our brains are and our intellect, it has very severe limitations. And for those of us who are starting out on this path, we understand that if you want to make progress, then you can't enter the door of the ghaib or the unseen with just logic and reasoning alone. It's only with a purified heart that you can walk through that door. That they didn't factor in. They left it so that they could take Islam and present it to the philosophers and the people who thought like that at the time in a way that would make sense to them. So that was the problem with the Mu'tazila. So just in short, if we look at the Jabariyah, the people who believed in compulsion, Jabr, compulsion, that they had no choice, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who decrees and nothing can happen outside the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That point was true, but as a result of them applying that, they said, because nothing can happen in this entire universe without the will of Allah, it doesn't matter what we do. We could do what we want. We can never change the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, they didn't believe in choice and assigned all their deeds to Allah. The Qadariyah on the other side are the people who believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them power and ability and choice and reasoning, and with that they were able to create independent effect in on this earth, setting themselves up almost in a sense as partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying in their belief that they can create effect and Allah can create effect, and had a problem with the preordainment. I'm not going to repeat everything that I said on what I just mentioned about the Mu'tazila. It's one of the areas that, what can we say? It's basically trying to record what happened in the history of Islam and how people have understood cause and effect in a way that took them off the path. We're going to come to how the Ahli Sunni wal Jama'ah believes, which is different from all three these previous groups. But before we get there, let's just find out if there's any points of clarity and anything that anyone wish to comment on, maybe. And we can actually then leave the rest of it, inshallah, to discussing the Ahli Sunni wal Jama'ah. But look at these the way people have interpreted cause and effect and try and see how the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fits in, or the lack of understanding, correct understanding of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them believe in a particular way. I'm going to open up the floor for any comments or questions.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, Mr. Manie.
Yes, Farid.
I was contemplating the other day, pondering outside, inshallah. I was looking outside, looking at the sun, subhanallah, and how that if Allah just created the sun and just left it to be, so that means Allah just created the sun or just created us and let us to be. So the sun is just obviously a creation. It's got limitations. It has no power but to do anything. Then obviously it would be very easy to make a mistake, or to, so basically when you have the sun and the sun goes down and the moon comes up, there's never ever a clash. So that means that subhanallah, Allah Ta'ala, He creates, but then he still has a control over everything. Then I was looking at even at the solar system, where the Manie shows the solar system, now the moons, the planets, and everything is in orbit, and that they don't collide into each other. So that means that Allah creates, but He doesn't just let it be, because then they would have obviously go into each other and so forth and create a massive disruption. So that means Allah creates, but then Allah is still in control of every movement, everything that happens. That's clear that I could see now, subhanallah.
Subhanallah. Very good, Muhammad Farid. Because, and what helps us in that sense, from the observations that you've made, mashallah, you recognize now one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or many of the names. Yes, Allah creates, and many of us accept Allah created everything. But they stop there. They don't look at the fact that Allah actually sustains this universe and maintains, sustains, supports every single second of creation, from the beginning of creation till the end of creation. Every single second of its existence is maintained and sustained and totally and utterly dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muhammad Farid, mashallah, that's a very good observation. I'm not sure if it's Sheikh Wahib, if you have joined us, welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. No, I just came to pop in, Salie.
Mashallah, mashallah. Welcome.
Jazakumullah khair for you. This is absolutely mind-blowing. Jazakumullah khair. It's a necessity. And we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having you, alhamdulillah, and guiding us through this. I just popping in because I came home now and I said, I need to prepare lessons. So when I saw it's just 4 o'clock, so I said, alhamdulillah, so I can at least pop in 4 o'clock and see the beautiful face, alhamdulillah, and listen to the beautiful voices. MashaAllah.
Shukran. Anytime, we welcome you. You would be a great asset to us. Shukran. Let's just hear if...
Whenever needed, inshallah. We are at your service with us, Salie.
Alhamdulillah.
We are at the service of everyone, inshallah.
Shukran, Sheikh. I know you came in a little bit towards the end, Muhammad Fasih. Is there any comment or question you'd like to raise at this stage? Muhammad Fasih?
Can Bilisani hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic, Mark. Sorry about that. Just on what Bilisani mentioned about the different sects, it shows me the importance of obviously, firstly, the understanding of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also understanding the place that Allah has or occupies figuratively, and the place that man occupies figuratively. And I think the reason why I say that is because from what Salie has mentioned, through a slight misunderstanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can in some way deviate in part or fully in terms of our Tawhid, and then our belief would be off, our belief would be misaligned. The same way a person stands in the Qibla and he just slightly turns, makes a slight deviation in the Qibla, and by virtue of that, if he was to walk that line, he would probably be at 10,000 meters from where the Kaaba is actually situated, by virtue of following that deviated line. So then I wanted to ask them, so can we then say that, oh, okay, maybe I should ask this question. So what is the solution in order for us to be able to continuously return to the true understanding? In terms of, because I mean, even these groups of people understand the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they had developed an understanding, or at least the latter had developed an understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of everything. So even my sins, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sanctioned, basically. So Allah is responsible for my sinning, in a sense. So how does one rectify, or how does one continue to return, in a sense, in a way where, what is the corrective measure that you put in place in as far as understanding the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so you don't fall into that trap in any aspect of belief?
Yeah, Muhammad Fasih, shukran for the question and the comments. It's true that they went through the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My view is that the reason why we have these differences is because they did not have a proper and a correct understanding of the sifat. Muhammad Fasih, I think your audio yes. The reason why they are not believing correctly, in my view, is because their understanding of the sifat is not correct. They've actually understood the sifat differently to how we understand it. Now, when we go through the actual belief of the Ahli Sunnah wal Jama'ah, of how we believe, when I read it and understood it for the first time, I thought, subhanallah, I've always claimed to be of the Ahli Sunnah wal Jama'ah. I only understand it now when I'm about to die. Alhamdulillah, Allah's opened my eyes, and I hope that when we go through these things, that we will clarify and clear up some of the misconceptions that we may have had for so many years in our lives. But those things, it's going to require a full session for us just to discuss how to believe correctly and not make the mistake that some of our previous scholars and individuals made with respect to the belief system. Are there any other comments or questions at this stage?
Mr. Salie.
Yes,
Mr. Salie, so we didn't actually came to the Ahl Sunni view yet.
No.
We handled the Jabariya, we handled the Qadariya, and the Mu'tazila.
Yes.
Now we must still get to the Ahl Sunni view.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct. And that is one of the things that we might have to spend more than one session on. To allow, because I think we should not move on if we don't understand how we're supposed to believe.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're going to fall in the trap by moving on, claim the label for ourselves, but actually believe like in part or bits and pieces made up of how other people believe. So I think on the next session, inshallah, we must make special effort to actually grapple with these issues. So that when we talk about believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we talk about our aqidah must be something that can be tested. Not only when we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we should actually test our understanding amongst one another even. How do we understand that? Help one another so that we can overcome some of these very difficult things. Now we're going to speak still about Qada and Qadr. Subhanallah, that topic is something that previously people have been told, and the ulama have told us, and to stay away from that. There are certain aspects where we must not even venture into, but there are other aspects, if we do not understand it correctly, we will assign unbefitting concepts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then what do we do in the process? We mess up our whole belief system. When we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as our creator, our sustainer, our nourisher, then we must know who Allah is as best as we can. So let's make a special effort on and if don't be busy next week. We need all of you to participate so that we can help one another, or not next week Sunday, in fact, to help one another refine our understanding, that we can actually be clear about some of the things that will be hopefully become a bit more clear, inshallah. Any final comments before we close off?
But Salie, if I may just make two observations. Number one is for people who would like to tune into the Tawhid program, focusing on Book 3, we will be broadcasting the next episode on Thursday, tomorrow, between 7 and 8, inshallah. And that will cover obviously Book 3, the Essentials of Tawhid. And then also, if people would like to go back and look at both the beginning of the series up until where we are now, all episodes, I think it's 27 episodes, if not more, have been uploaded to Iono. So people go onto Salie's website, they'll be able to find the link to Iono, and they'll be able to listen and download the audios pertaining to Tawhid and the Creation, which was book 6, I think, in the series, and also the Essentials of Tawhid, Book 3. We currently finished episode 3, and tomorrow will be episode 4, inshallah.
Inshallah. Shukran, everyone. I will conclude because I didn't realize that this session would take so long. I, in fact, thought that we'll be able to complete even the part on the Ahli Sunni wal Jama'ah, but Allah knows best. We're going to ask Imam Hussein to make dua for us. Shukran for your attendance. Allah be pleased with all of you. Open all our hearts. Oh yes, Tarashat is here. Tarashat Darus. Haji.
Ya salam. Nana kasi so tamam. Ito Salie.
Tafaddal.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم يا حي يا قيوم يا بديع السماوات والأرض يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين ارحمنا ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم واهدنا وفقنا إلى الحق وإلى طريق مستقيم ببركة القرآن يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Shukran jazilan. Shukran very much. mashallah. Last week, when you weren't here, we missed your beautiful voice and the barakah of your dua. May Allah grant you double reward. Ameen, inshallah. Shukran, everyone. We will look forward to seeing you on Sunday at 2:30. Sunday at 2:30, inshallah. Shukran.
2:30 not
everyone.
Sunday. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Can I just say a small thing? Shukran for those of you who made dua for my wife. She's been hospitalized and she underwent an operation. Alhamdulillah. We are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The operation was successful. She had a spine operation. She's still in hospital. She's still in hospital now, but the surgeon said that the operation was successful. So she still has a lot of pain, but alhamdulillah, the operation was successful. Please continue making dua for full recovery.
Still making dua.
Allah must grant us speedy recovery, inshallah.
Ameen. Ameen. Shukran
May Allah
jazilan.
grant, Allah grant a complete shifa, and may Allah grant her health better than we understand it. Amen.
Alhamdulillah. Shukran very much, everyone. Muhammad Fasih, do you want to still speak to me afterwards? I'll reconnect. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum
Wa alaikum salam wa
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.